Welcome back to Just Jossin, everyone. I am one of your hosts, Sabrina Hannon.
And I'm the other, Jasmine Heron. Welcome to season 4 of Buffy. We are now officially expanding our whedonverse into Buffy and Angel. So this episode is just focusing on Buffy, and our next episode is just focusing on Angel.
And this will be one episode at a time. So this episode is season 4, episode 1 solely of Buffy.
Which is The Freshman.
Yep. And I don't know about you, Jasmine, but for me, if you take the supernatural elements out of it, this is a very accurate portrayal of like what it feels like on a big college campus your first day of just like, oh crap, where is everything? I still have nightmares that I can't find my classes.
I actually, when I was watching it, I was feeling a little bit of anxiety, like reminiscent anxiety of, oh yeah, that was a thing that happened.
Like I didn't have the thing where people were handing out flyers the first day. Wilkes, which is where I went to college, had a specific day set aside for that, where it was just clubs and everything else you could think of that would attack the freshman class or like students who've transferred in. But it wasn't like day one of trying to figure your shit out. People are handing you stuff like that.
Full-sized flyers. We got what we used to call quarter cards.
Oh yeah.
And it was basically they would take one sheet of paper and they would do 4 flyers on it, and they would cut it into 4 to save paper.
Yeah, because like clubs and such had budgets, and I imagine also like if you're somewhere that's having a party, you probably also want to save money for the booze.
Now, I was thinking back, and did your university have freshmen come to rush early for
I think all colleges do. Like you have freshman move-in weekend. That's what we called it. But like the freshmen for us, there was freshman orientation where we were all on campus a few days before everybody else. So and there were obviously the RAs and stuff were there, but like they would show us campus.
Fraternities and sororities. That didn't
have those
later, right?
There were no fraternities or sororities on our campus.
Okay. So like we did, but they did not do like rush or anything until like a few weeks into the semester. So I thought it was kind of interesting when you see Buffy going down the plaza and you could see the pledges being shirtless, and I'm like, that wouldn't be happening on the first day. But I think that they were trying to, pack as much of the college experience into the first day as possible.
Because also when I was in grad school at SCSU, they did have fraternities and sororities, and they did the same thing that my undergrad did, in that they had a specific day, and all the sororities and colleges were set up, or not sororities and colleges, sororities and fraternities were with all the clubs, and you would sign up then, so you couldn't be rushing or anything prior to that because you hadn't signed up. So
I apologize. My Roomba just decided to empty itself in the next room, and it kind of sounded like, a spacecraft was taking off.
I didn't really hear anything, but so the anxiety is very accurate. The depiction of how hectic it is a little over exaggerated, but it feels that way.
Yep. And so I also went to a big university. I went to Cornell for my undergrad, and one of the things that was different for us is that, which is that actually I have worked at several universities, and something that was different for us for my freshman experience was from the very start, they separated you from your parents. Like all the parents kind of showed up with their kids to, drop them off for orientation stuff. And from the very start, they were like, your student must go into this hall by themselves to get their welcome packet, to get their ID. Parents, you go that away. Students, you go that away. And so there was this feeling of, I'm alone by myself for the first time.
Yep. Yeah, mine worked the same. I mean, obviously, as a grad student, I was living in a different state, and I was 23 years old, so it was different. Because undergrad was a small school. Grad school was gigantic. It was, Connecticut State University, so it was very large. So, but like, at both of those, they did the same thing. Where like, parents, you're still a parent, but your child is an adult.
Yep.
And we're not dealing with you throughout the next 4 years.
Oh, see, when I started working at universities I worked at were a lot more, we've got helicopter parents. And I was baffled by that, about how much the parents were like, oh, I didn't fill out this form for my child yet. And we're like, your child is 18 years old. They are an adult. They can fill out their own form.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I was like when I was a TA, hearing the professors I worked with talk about parents like that, and they were just like, I don't deal with them. If they start, I'm just like, I'm sorry, the student will have to come see me. No, I'm not talking to you about their grades. That is against university policy.
Yep, FERPA.
Yeah. No. But I do think it's interesting that, like, we don't have the scene where like Buffy's mom is helping her move her stuff in or anything like that. We don't have that. I also thought it was weird because like, you do have the option usually to select your roommate. So why Willow and Buffy wouldn't have selected to be roommates from the get-go, especially with Buffy being the Slayer and Willow being like a witch.
Yep.
Like, you would think that would be a natural pairing, although that won't lead us to what we have in an episode or two. So, oh, and I do have a fun fact, 2 fun facts actually about this episode. This is the first episode in Buffy ever to not feature Sunnydale High. Strange.
Yeah.
Also, in this episode, Mr. Gordo is black and white instead of pink, which he has been in other episodes.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that, but wow.
Like that, usually they have it much more together than that, especially with such an important character like Mr. Gordo.
So, yeah, I was also interested because did you have an ad drop period?
Yes.
For like 2 weeks before?
Yeah, so adding a class was different, but you had up until a certain point to drop a class. So I want to say it was like a month in. But yeah, there is a period of ad drop.
Yeah, so I think there was a specific period of time where you could do adding, and I think it was 2 weeks. And then the drop period was a little bit more extended. I think it was 6 weeks into the semester was the last time you could drop a class without it being marked as an incomplete.
But if a class was full, you had to get that professor's permission to enter. Because when I was a sophomore, right, it would be considered, yeah, it's the same for college. When I was a college sophomore, my advisor really wanted me to take Women's Studies 101, but the class was full. And he was like, you have to take it. I'm getting you in. And he talked to the professor. The professor wanted to talk to me. And then sure enough, she added me to her roster, which completely then changed the course of my life. So good call, Chad Stanley. But it is possible. Sometimes you will have to talk to the professor, but they're the ones who control the their rosters and how many people can be in their classes. This was also I never encountered a professor like the one that we're going to, the very mean yelly man.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because you're paying for that privilege. And if you get too many complaints about a shitty ass dude, you're probably going to be fired.
I had one professor like that. I did have one professor like that. But yeah, the rest of them were not like that. Everybody was um, having spurty knowledge feelings.
Mm-hmm.
um,
I think you get more, so you might get more arrogant professors who are like, I'm so smart, look at me. Versus, and like ones who are a little cuckoo. Like I had a professor who um was sure that the university is watching him through like the big TV that you would wheel in, because they still did that then. And like occasionally when he was lecturing would turn to the TV and wave and say hello to it. Now whether or not he actually believed that or he was just screwing with his students, but he was crazy smart, and with crazy smartness tends to come crazy. But now with it's weird. So when Buffy and Willow, Buffy is patrolling in the graveyard. Her and Willow are sitting there, and Willow's trying to help Buffy pick her classes. For me, it was weird because everything was done electronically, so I don't know how accurate this depiction was. Everything was electronic by the time I got to college. Do you know? Maybe from
things
your brothers?
things were electronic for them as well. Although there was paper forms. There were paper forms for ad drop that you had to have the professor sign off on and say, yes, you can come into my class. And then you brought that to the registrar, and the registrar went okay, and they entered you in and they put you on the rolls. But you could sign up for classes early online, basically, and you would kind of see that your time slot would open up, and you would type in the name of the class or the code for the class, and then you would see how many availabilities there were still in it. And
For us, I guess we were my freshman year, first semester only. Our advisors, like, they contacted us earlier on in the summer to see like what it was that we wanted. Because as freshmen, there are certain things you have to take. Well, not have to, but like you need to take your base courses before you can advance to more advanced courses. So they'd be like, this is what you can take. Here are the time slots. Okay, I did not have a choice in my time slots. I'm not even gonna lie about that. But I was basically just given a schedule because I would not have picked to have geology at 8 a.m. There's no way in hell I would have done that.
actually, I think you're right. I'm pretty sure I met with my advisor, and I already had my initial classes selected for me, having spoken with my advisor over the summer. And it was, because I took Japanese, and it was like, Japanese 101, which also met at 8 a.m. and that was horrible. But then I got to select when my, you know, I want to say breakout group. That is not what I'm talking about.
Lab?
It wasn't lab because it was language. My section. Like, so they had the big lecture and then they had sections. And so I got to pick what my section was. And so I picked the section that was at like 9 a.m. right after the class, because then I would have a period of time where I could go back to my residence hall and, chill out for a bit before afternoon classes. But I think by the time second semester came about, I was nixing all those 8 a.m. classes.
Yeah, by the time I got to, like, when there are certain classes that you have to, like core classes, like you will get stuck taking some earlier ones. But by junior year, if a class met before 11 a.m., I was not taking it.
Yep.
It didn't matter if I really wanted it or not. There was nothing I wanted that much.
By the time I hit my first semester senior year, I switched my schedule, so I only had Tuesday and Thursday classes. And so I had Monday, Wednesday, and Friday off. And so it was basically like a 4-day weekend. except, you know, I was also working on my thesis. So
Yeah.
that happened. But in terms of dragging my butt across campus, and we were in a cold area. So
Mhm.
walking in the cold was, I'm still not a fan.
Bracing it wakes you up if nothing else.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. But okay,
Um,
so we've got Buffy, and she is feeling very overwhelmed by this big campus feeling. And she keeps trying to mention to her friends that she is feeling a little adrift, and they're not really feeling it back, you know?
nope. I mean, Willow's been waiting for this her whole life. But she's also attached to Oz, and Oz knows the lay of the land from playing there when, like, with his band playing there.
Yep.
So, and a lot of his friends who graduated the year before seem to be there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also, like, there's a couple of times I just want to smack Willow when she's like, well, you should have done this earlier. It's like, asshole, why don't you be like, hey, I'm going, like, make a plan with your friend and be like, I'm getting my idea at such and such a time. Why don't you come with me? Like,
Yeah,
you know, you normally would. Like, Buffy made sure to include Willow in things throughout high school. Willow, be a good friend.
I agree. And actually, that was one of the things that I really appreciated when I was a freshman, was that I had a few certain friends that we would do things together. And they actually, they broke us up into, like, you know, freshman peer groups. And one of them was my friend Allie. and and we would, you know, okay, we're going to meet at this time to go for dinner. We're going to meet at this time to do this. Like, oh, we need to go pick up our IDs. Let's meet here at this time.
Hmm. Yeah. I didn't know anyone at my school, like, but usually what they'll do, like over the summer, we had a freshman orientation that happened, like, so we could meet people. Or maybe
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't in, sorry, it was a few days before everyone moved in. So I wound up knowing some people and we stuck together like glue. And it was very much so the same thing. Like, I remember there was some event where we all had like pizza together. Like, they had all the freshmen have pizza together in this one room, and, or not room, but this large area. And then afterwards, me and these friends, like my friend Jay, um, we were like, there's all that pizza that's still left there. So we like hightailed it back there and stole all the leftover pizza, really starting off the starving college student thing right and early. But they had us play those stupid icebreaker games like in the gym or whatever. And I made my one friend Jen, because she accidentally, we had a game where you would take a red flag and put it in your back pocket,
Uh-huh.
and she accidentally grabbed my butt because you were trying to grab things, and that's how we became friends, because she grabbed my butt.
See, and you say it's a stupid icebreaker game, and yet it broke the ice and you made a friend.
Yeah, sexual harassment brought us together. But we see none of that here. Like, Buffy is just adrift. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there is, and it is so disorganized, this school. Like, I really can't get over that. And I think anyone who has been to college, like, you have that feeling of, but you don't feel like everything's disorganized.
Mm-hmm.
You just feel like you're screwed.
You feel overwhelmed, but you still, you know, that
There's
you need,
someone hurting you somewhere.
yes, there's someone hurting you.
Yeah, because that's what it is. They are hurting you from station to station usually. Um, and one of the things that they do talk about in this, which is true, are that a lot of freshmen, not a decent amount of freshmen, drop out within the first couple of weeks of school because they can't take it. Like, because you get all these syllabuses that say all these things that you're going to do, and it is really overwhelming, but you're able to accomplish it. Like, don't, if you're someone who is not yet in college, prepare yourself for getting the syllabus. It's going to be scary, but it's okay. You will get it all done. I know someone, well, I don't know them. They were in that like group of people that I met, and they dropped before the first day of classes because they were so overwhelmed by the whole experience. And that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's definitely worth them mentioning it, and it's perfect for vampires.
Yes. So we have from the very beginning in the graveyard the conversation about how Buffy needs to take psych because Professor Walsh is apparently world renowned.
Mhm.
She's already gone through the painful nowning process, and now she is renowned.
Yes.
And so then when they go to the library and they go to the bookstore, and once again we meet Riley.
That is one of the best meet cutes in this whole thing. Of all the guys that Buffy meets, I mean, Angel stalking her, not cute. Spike stalking her, not cute. So Riley, it's a very genuine, it feels like if you're uncoordinated like I am, this could happen to you as well.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of interact, like you become friends with people at college because of things like that, hitting them on the head with a book, grabbing their butt. Friendships are made these ways. That's not how it works in the office.
Yeah, I do think that, this was a very also natural progression of a romantic relationship,
Yes.
because sometimes you meet someone and there's that awkward first encounter and there's not the immediate like, ooh, hello. There's just the, oh, this is a person that I met and, had a quick conversation with, and then see again, and then see again.
Yeah. Because I mean, they're both attractive people, Buffy and Riley. Buffy is so overwhelmed with everything. I don't think it would matter to her, like, if the most handsome man in the world was there. Like, she's dealing with a lot right now, and Riley has just been assaulted with a book.
Yep.
So Buffy also makes a comment like, when Mom gets the bill for this, I hope it's a funny aneurysm. And that's what Joyce later dies of.
Yes, I know. I
Yeah.
know. I noted that as well and was like, ooh, did Joss do that on purpose? Or
Most likely. It's like, Buffy, your comment doesn't age well for yourself. So there Xander's also missing at this point because he's supposed to be doing the thing where he drives to all 50 states, and Buffy asks, did you explain about Hawaii? And Willow's response was, he seemed so excited, I didn't wanna. And that is such an interaction between these three. Like, yes, I 100% believe that Xander thinks that he's driving to all 50 states.
I wonder if I mean, because there are cars in Hawaii, so do they have like a ferry? Is there like some?
You can fly them, and they also have those big ships. Would it count as driving to Hawaii if you drove your car onto a big ass ship and it drove your car? Or not drove, but sailed, I guess. It boated your car there. And another thing to note about this school is the library is very different. It is ginormous. It is beautiful. I think most college libraries tend to be like this. Like, they're in these very beautiful buildings. Ours smelled a little weird, but that's because it had had a flooding issue a few years before. So I assume no, the one at SCSU also smelled a little weird depending on what part of the building you were in. But it's all the books breaking down. So Buffy also, like, you can tell that she's thinking that this will be the one thing that's normal, and it's not. And then she meets her roommate.
And then she meets her roommate, Kathy, who we can't tell at first if she's just really excited to be at college or if she's going to be a problem.
Or she's on drugs. Like, are you on medication, ma'am? With her Celine Dion poster. Like, looking. So if you watch this for the first time now, I don't think her putting up the Celine Dion poster would have exactly the same impact as it did then, because it was very much so, oh, you're a certain kind of person. Like, you're going to be cheery all the fucking time. Whereas now, it's just like, yes, queen, if you're putting up a Celine Dion poster. I think. I don't know. What do the college students do these days?
I don't know either. It's been a decade.
Give or take. And their dorm room is very nice, very spacious for freshmen.
Yeah. So one thing is, like, you can see they've got the beds are not up against the walls. Like, in there's wall space, bed space, wall. And like in all the residence halls I've been in, it is, like that there is just enough room to pass basically in between the beds that are crammed against the walls. Sometimes we would bunk the beds so that there was a little more floor space, but
see, the cool thing about the place that I went, a lot of the residence halls were former mansions that had been donated or bought by the school from coal barons in the area. So if you wound up in the new dorm, which were basically the inside, they were cells. Like, that's what it was. Like, it was cinder block that was painted, and there were 2 beds against the walls, and it connected to another, like a bathroom that connected to another room that had 2 identical beds just like that. And that's where most freshmen went. Some overspill went into the nicer housing. Now, if once you were a sophomore, a junior, or a senior, most people had moved off campus by the time you were a senior, but they had these beautiful mansion, but even then, like, some of the rooms were not that huge because these are all converted rooms. So like, you still get a lot of bunk beds that are up against walls, like, or I'm sure I was in 1 or 2 that were not like that, but for them, they were upperclassmen.
Yep.
Not freshmen.
So I was an RA pretty much the entire, I was a freshman and then I became an RA.
I just showed up and they were like, you're an RA.
And when I was an RA, one of the rooms that I had, the residence hall, was a converted sanatorium. So my room was the old, like, doctor's office, not where, like, he met patients, but like his office with the bay window. And so I had a really nice room with a really nice bay window.
Very nice. Yeah. I commuted for the first 2 years, and then I had an apartment off campus for 2 years. So I missed out on the whole luxury of having to pay $15,000 a year to live in a dorm with somebody else. I didn't share. So I am much younger than all my siblings by a lot. So I didn't share a room with someone until I had a romantic partner that I was sharing a room with. So I did not want to start off college by sharing a room. I'm not going to lie. So yeah, but I saved myself like $30,000.
Yeah, well, and also Buffy has never shared a room.
Yeah.
And so that first night when she's lying in bed and Kathy is like smacking her lips and like moaning in her sleep and Buffy's feeling awkward, that's a completely new experience for her. So let's talk about Eddie. She meets Eddie, who is this kind of sweet, also overwhelmed freshman. They discuss security blankets. He says that he is into on human bondage. Buffy's like, I'm not into porn.
Trying to cut way back.
He's like, no, it's a book. And then she's like, oh, I have Mr. Pointy, which also sounds like a sex thing.
Yeah. And he's like, what? And she's like, oh, bike path.
Yep. She just kind of smooths right over that. But they say they're going to look out for each other. And of course, then he gets attacked by the vampire club.
Yep.
And dies. So we meet Sunny and Sunny's gang. Did you notice in the very first part, I don't know if we caught her name, the larger red-headed vampire?
I didn't catch her name. But what about her? I just have that poor thing is fat shamed. That's what I have.
Well, she has her hair in like little mini buns,
like a Spice Girl.
Like the Spice Girl look. And then in the very next scene, Sunday is wearing that hairstyle, and she's wearing a different one. Mm-hmm. And I was like, did you just steal your lackey's hairstyle?
Probably. She seems like the type. Mm-hmm. Sunday is a bit of nasty business. She is every mean girl you've ever seen. Like, she puts Cordelia and Harmony to shame. Like, well, actually, she's a much better fighter than they would ever be. I feel like if you turn Cordelia into a vampire, she might be Sunday. But so they have this brilliant thing, these vamps, right? So they kill someone and they take all their stuff and they write out a note saying that they couldn't hack it and they leave. Now, obviously, there's the issue of this person never returns home, and the parents in real world would contact and be like, where the hell is my child? Yep. So, but that doesn't happen. But they make a mistake when they take Eddie's stuff. So when Buffy, doesn't see Eddie, she goes back to his place, goes to his dorm for the first time ever, and sees like everything's gone. And the RA is like, yeah, it happens. But she sees his book, Human Bondage, in his bedside table.
Yep.
And so she knows something has gone wrong. And what does she do when something goes wrong? She goes to see Giles.
And Giles has a new friend,
Olivia,
who is beautiful and only wearing what appears to be Giles's shirt.
Yeah, especially with how nicely pressed it looks.
Well, okay, so we see Giles is wearing a robe, but he's wearing pants under the robe, and then Olivia is wearing the shirt that probably went with the pants.
Yeah, I really enjoy how comfortable she is, like Olivia is with her body. Like, she's not like, oh no, the second Buffy walks in.
Yep.
She's just like, I'll go get Ripper for you.
Yep, and she refers to him as Ripper, so they are old friends.
Yes. And which Giles confirms when he comes out and says like, oh, this is a old friend. She's, in town for a few days. Mm-hmm. And Buffy tries to tell Giles what she thinks is going on and wrong. And Giles does what we see him do, to completion later on, which is, Buffy, you can't come running to me. You need to be self-sufficient. Da, 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 da. You don't have a watcher anymore. You don't need me. Me.
Yep. Which?
And her face, and how she reacts to the whole thing. Giles, naughty. If you had your glasses on, you'd know what a prick you are.
But
so she now knows or feels like she's on her own. Mm-hmm. And so she goes out hunting what she believes, or no, she doesn't go out hunting. She is just on campus, and Eddie is now a vampire, and they've sent him out to try and lure others. And Buffy sees him and goes running after him and has to slay him. So he does not make it very long as a vamp.
Nope.
And then Sunday is there, and she's like, I heard the Slayer might be coming.
And then makes fun of Buffy's outfit. And Buffy has been feeling off kilter.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, any other day, she would just totally kick Sunday's ass.
Yep.
But she's feeling off kilter. She's off her game. And Sunday and her group prey upon this and hurt, Buffy's arm. And so did we see the part already where she's gone back home? So she goes back home.
I think that happens after she hurts her arm and her face, because her mother says you've been fighting.
Yep.
So that's after the fight.
So she has the fight. She gets injured. She goes back home because she needs some parental support that she did not get from Giles. And her mom's converted her room into a storage room, or hasn't converted it, but is temporarily using it as a storage room while they do inventory at the gallery. And there is a phone call, and Buffy answers, and no one is on the other end, like no one's responding on the other end, and she hangs up. And that'll be important in our next episode, not the next Buffy episode.
Yeah, it'll be important in the first episode of Angel.
Yep.
So, Joyce keeps saying, like, I didn't think you'd be home for a few more weeks, when fall break is. So, she then, Buffy goes instead to the Bronze, the other place that's familiar, but it's not familiar anymore.
First, before she does this, she goes back to her room and all her stuff is missing.
Yes.
And instead of being like, oh, these vamps, let me call Willow or whatever. No, she just goes off to the Bronze to sulk by herself. And she thinks she sees Angel, but it's not Angel.
It actually is played by Angel up until the point where you see the face.
Yep.
Like the full-on face. The side view is Angel.
Yep.
David Boreanaz, rather. And as she's sulking, who happens to be there but Xander? And Xander shines as a friend here. Like, he really picks up. He is the only one who is, like, he's not still the same because he's much better than he was, but he is the only one that is there for her in this. Because he's like, something's wrong. Let's talk about it.
Yep.
And then he tells her, like, so Xander has this funny thing where his car broke down when he was going to go to all 50 states. And, like, the engine, he said, literally fell out. So he wound up working at a male strip club. And he definitely alludes to how he one night stripped for money.
And he says, no power on earth will make him.
No power in this verse.
In the whedonverse.
Yes, shall make me. So, but he said, like, whenever he's in a really dark place, he thinks to himself, what would Buffy do? And don't we all? So, like, he's really, like, building her back up. And he's like, circle the wagons, get everyone together, let's do some research. And they do. Like, thank goodness for Xander here. And him also showing up at, the Bronze, probably because he didn't know where else to go, because his parents have thrown him into the basement, and he now has to pay rent. That's what he has come home to find. So, Xander, he also says to her at one point during this exchange, once more with even less feeling. And I was just like, Joss Whedon, you enjoy writing things that are so similar.
A little preview of season 6.
Yes.
Season 6 or season 6.
So they break into, I guess it's the records office.
Registrar or something like that.
Yeah, and break in. They've broken the glass. and they're looking everything up on computer. Well, Buffy's looking up on computers, and he's going through old newspapers, like school newspapers, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And come to find out, in 1982, I believe is what they said, somewhere in the 80s, a frat house was not, like, had its charter ripped from them.
Mm-hmm.
So the house had to be vacated, if anyone was living there. So it's been untouched on the campus, just abandoned. And that's when all of the disappearances started happening.
Yep.
So now they know where. So, and it's important to also note, Buffy's really been like holding her arm since that fight with Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a little bruise on her face, but the arm thing will be much more important. Now, while they're running off to, check out the vampire lair, and Buffy crawls up on an entirely glass window ceiling.
Yep.
And is looking down. She tells Xander to go get everyone because she doesn't see her weapons trunk. Yep. So to check her room, see if it's there, and then if not, get Willow. Well, Willow and Oz are already at her dorm, and they see the note, and now Willow realizes she's been a shitty friend. And she's like, but there were signs, and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, yes, there were. Like Buffy telling you repeatedly how she felt. That's a sign. Yes.
Yep. So, I mean, yeah, we have all this, and then Kathy says that she was looking for a stable roommate without mental problems or emotional problems. Mm-hmm. That's not something you can specify for your...
No.
I think we could have smoker or non-smoker, late night, like night owl or morning person, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Partier or studier. Those are the things that we could check off for our roommate match.
And honestly, a lot of that shit's going to change while you're in college. Yep. So you might think you're a studier and get to college and that first semester realize you are indeed a partier, or vice versa.
Yep. But so Xander shows up, says it's a prank, hugs Willow, then hugs Kathy and realizes he doesn't actually know Kathy. Does the like head nod to Oz because they're too manly to hug.
Yeah, he's like, do we hug? It's like, we're too manly.
Yep. And then hints to Oz and Willow that Buffy's friends who have no hands and sleep all day are the ones that have pulled this prank. And they're like, oh, okay, we should go. And to go to Willow's to get the backup weaponry, because apparently they did take the chest, as we find out.
Yeah. So they grab the stuff, and unfortunately, while this is shortly after Xander leaves, Buffy falls through that glass ceiling. You're supposed to go up through the glass ceiling, Buffy, not down through it. And falls right in front of all of the vamps as they're going through Buffy's stuff. And Sunday just begins mocking her yet again, saying, how am I ever going to escape this evil plan, Slayer? And she's mocking her, and it gets to the point where Sunday picks up Buffy's class protector umbrella trophy, and Buffy
the audience goes, no.
And Buffy says, you don't want to do that, and she breaks it. And then Buffy proceeds to break her face. So this fight happens, and this whole time, Sunday has really been relying on the fact that she thinks Buffy's arm is broken, but it's not. It's just hurt. And so she begins to, like, when Buffy says that, the tides again turn. All the vamps try to run out that aren't Sunday, but in comes Willow and Xander and Oz, and they start slaying and kicking butt as well.
And Willow actually slays someone with the crossbow.
Yep. Yeah, she does.
Successfully has killed a vamp.
Yep. And once they're all done and Sunday has been slain, now 2 vampires do get away. And they don't chase after them. They're just busy gathering up Buffy's stuff and walking. And of course, as they're walking back to Buffy's dorm, Giles comes running with his weapons and saying, like, I'm so sorry. Of course I want to help you. How can I do this to you? And he is far too late. And they're just like, you can carry this stuff. Thank you.
So I actually think that that's a very important, I guess, metaphor where Buffy didn't need to rely on Giles, but she did need the support of her peers and her friends. And there is this transition time where you are learning to be an adult and be independent. But although you're becoming independent of your parents or your parental figures, you don't have to be independent of your support group. And so I think it was really important that the Scoobies rallied around her and she was able to see, yes, I've got this, we've got this. I don't need, Daddy Giles, and I don't need Mama Joyce. Like, I just need my friends here and myself to find my footing.
Yeah.
So I do think that was great that he does show up and say, yeah, I am here if you need me.
And I think for some parents, it's gotta be like, do I just push this little baby bird out of the nest and hope that they don't splat on the pavement or what? And Giles, I think they try to do the, like, he's British and this is what they do. Whether or not that's an accurate portrayal of British culture, that's how the Brits have been portrayed in Buffy. And so that's what they have him do. But he, like, comes to his senses because I think he also realizes he doesn't have to fix everything, but he needs to still be a part of Buffy's life. And again, support, and offer guidance. Like, I think everyone, like, throughout your life, when you hit different phases, you still need some guidance in things from not just like parents, but from people who know what it is that you're going through. If you're buying a house for the first time, you're going to want to talk to someone who has bought a house. How do I navigate this? What do I do? Kind of like if you're taking up a new hobby, like, you'll want to talk to someone who's done it before. You're not reinventing the wheel. So there's one scene right after this that is very important, where the vampire, one of them who's gotten away, is suddenly tasered, basically, by these people in camo and combat gear. And they're coming to grab him. End scene. And he's in vamp face. So they clearly know that they're grabbing something not human. Or someone with a lot of dermatological issues.
And this is how we start season 4 of Buffy.
And I mean, it's a compelling start. It really is.
And also, I want to notice that this is the 4th season where Buffy starts off kilter. Not quite herself, because we had season 1 where she's the new girl, basically. We have season 2 with when she was bad. We have season 3 with Anne. And now we've got season 4 as the freshman. And it always kind of ends with her reclaiming her power again. And so once again, we have season 4. She has reclaimed her power in this totally new scenario. And that's how we're starting season 4 off.
Yes. Season 4 has, I think, my favorite Thanksgiving episode of anything ever, and that includes Slapsgiving of How I Met Your Mother, which also has Willow. There is or Allison Hannigan. There is a theme there. But I feel like sometimes season 4 gets a lot of crap, but season 4, the episodes that they have that are beautiful, shiny gems are fantastic. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
I think people shit on it because they don't love Riley.
Yeah.
And I love Riley. Kinda. He's a better choice for Buffy. He is a college boyfriend.
Uh-huh. So next week we are discussing Angel, season 1, episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then the week after that, we are bouncing right back on to Buffy, where we'll be discussing living conditions, the roommate situation.
Yep. Thank you for just jossing with me in this new year.
Yes. Thank you very much. And we will see you in the Hellmouth. Actually, no, we won't
In
see
LA.
you. We will see you in LA next week.